I can't stress how important it is for your brand to have good social media. And I think it has kind of elevated from where it was. It is important for your brand to have social media. It is important for your brand to have good social media, and it's gonna get to a point where it is important for your brand to have excellent social media because the competition that we are seeing these days is coming in the millions, right? The people that you are competing with, whether you are an individual creator or if you are actually with a brand, there are so many people out there. And then let's say we have 1 billion people a day producing content. That means the proportion of people who are doing excellent content is more than ever before. Let's put that at 10 million people. I can't do the math on top of my head, but 10 million people out of 1 billion people are doing excellent content. You are now competing with 10 million people. You are now, even if you're not in the same industry, even if you're not in the same niche, you're competing with them. Why? Because let's say you're a restaurant, because today's video is actually an inspiration from a restaurant that is very close by to where I live, and I see it, I walk past it every day, and I just came across it on social media today, and it kind of really inspired this video. So let's take it in the form of a restaurant, right? Let's say you are I don't know, you're a Lebanese restaurant or you're a Japanese restaurant, right? And you are in a small city in Canada, right? Your competition, you're not competing with the big restaurants around the world, but once restaurants around the world, and I'm not talking about the McDonald's, well, you can't really call it a restaurant, but I mean, when it comes to food, you're not going to really compare yourself with the biggest brands in the world. You're going to compare yourself to, let's say, mid-tier brands. But even those brands are going to start to be producing excellent content because the benchmark is so high. So even if you're not competing per se with those really high brands, your niche is now expected to be higher. So if you're in a restaurant, people don't want to just see designs with 10,000 words on it saying, we have a free dinner tomorrow. You are invited to try the best food. I mean, that's what I saw. I'm kind of traumatized, social media wise. I'm kind of traumatized because I just saw a design like that. Like in 2023, here in Melbourne, Australia, there was a restaurant. I don't want to name the restaurant because I actually really like the place. But it's something I will discuss with them personally, but not expose them on social media. But I just looked at their designs and it's like, yeah, you can make designs. The person who's designing is a designer, but these are from 2009. They clearly don't communicate anything valuable to someone reading. There is so much, like one of the designs said free entry, kind of like tilted like this, like in the middle of the post in red and then with a white background, and then the whole picture had like some kind of beige undertone. So that's why I'm trying to say that it doesn't matter what niche you're in, once the benchmark is set higher and people come to look at your social media stuff in 2023, if you are that restaurant making that design right now and people are coming onto social media and they look at that, they're going to be like, okay, so first of all, just to give you a little note on this restaurant, they're not actually bringing in a lot of people because the place they're in does not have a lot of foot traffic and it's quite expensive. So when the physical resources you have don't work, this is where we come in. This is where social media comes in, right? Because if you are not capable of bringing people, right, and saying in front of your store, hey man, would you like to come in, try a restaurant, the word of mouth old style, you resort to social media. And once you resort to social media, you can bring in a much wider audience. You can have people coming in from different states to eat your food. And I know this because Milky Lane, right, a restaurant in Gold Coast in Sydney, and I live in Melbourne, Australia, is one of the most popular restaurants in Australia. And one of the reasons is not just its aesthetic and physical resources, but also their social media. It's to the point where they make people feel FOMO from the other side of the country. You see the difference now that we're talking about? If you do not have good, I'm saying like in 2023, I think we're still at maybe good, maybe even very good, but we're not at the point where if you don't have excellent social media, you're screwed. But now when you're looking at this restaurant's social media, the first smash restaurant that I mentioned, you're just going to be like, yeah, okay, so we've walked past the restaurant, there was nothing that stuck out, the prices are a bit high. When it comes to the social media, I'm not really being able to connect with the brand. It's not a brand, it's just giving me information. Tomorrow we have a party. Okay. Ramadan was last month, and this restaurant was offering iftar, right? And Eid also, and making an Eid party, and offering great meals, like great things that are only found or only eaten during Ramadan in Australia, right? Which doesn't really have the Ramadan vibes of the Middle East. So this restaurant was offering something different. Now, if you look at the social media post that they did to actually kind of market this thing, you would be like, well, first of all, aesthetically, it's not good. Second of all, the information that's being provided, like, it doesn't show me that you're valuing this thing, right? So it doesn't even get any traction. It's just social media for the sake of social media. And I have to say this, if you're going to do social media for the sake of social media, it does not matter. It's not like, yes, it's great to continue doing social media. Yes, it's great to fail and try. But if you are just going into social media for the sake of social media, for your brand, and there is no actual, I'm walking on a very fine line here with what I'm about to say. But in the context of a restaurant, right? If you don't have social media experts or even people who are used to using social media, which is very rare these days, like to not have someone who doesn't know how to use social media. But if you're not producing good content and you could be focusing on other strengths in the business, you might as well do that, because social media can actually be negative for your brand if you don't know how to manage it. Like, there were comments there that were, like paragraphs talking about what the restaurant did and how it didn't treat the people that went there well. And there was no reply for 4 days, right? It's like some of the things are basic social media stuff. So in this case, I'm talking about, if it's not good social media content, you need to pay attention, because in this case, you're talking about reputation. In this case, social media really builds a lot of things that is different. Like, if you're talking about like, if I'm gonna make a food that's bad, right? Like, let's say, we're gonna try to make this sweet, and the sweet turns out not to be good. Well, it's not really a big deal, because if people order that sweet, it's not really a big part of the restaurant. Like, people might not order it, so they don't know about it, so their opinions of the restaurant aren't affected by it. But when it comes to the social media, if you show anyone the social media and you show all of those things, like inability to manage what people are saying, inability to create content that is conducive to 2015, let alone 2023, this is where you start to pay attention and say, okay, you immediately feel like, all right, I'm seeing things that I should not be seeing in 2023. I think that, or not I think, but subconsciously you get turned off. And this is what I realized with a lot of people, and there's a very important bonus point to add right here, right? Because, you might say, well, bad designs or bad whatever, or bad video or bad quality, doesn't really play a big role. We've seen so many people on social media go viral without having like a good camera or without having a good lit. Yeah, I understand. I completely understand that. But there are also different contextual variables here, right? When you're in a location where you're not even providing any sort of content, you are just providing informative graphic designs which do not adhere to a brand, which do not adhere to anything that allows the consumer to feel something different, then what is the point of the social media content? So that's kind of just the thing that I wanted to talk about today, why it's important to have social media content that is good. I'm currently in the process of growing through my content. If you don't know who I am Karalius, a social media content creator with over 700,000 followers, trying to sing a song from every country in the world. And I thought I would just open this account to kind of share my experiences with people. And I've had a lot of experience in social media over 8 years now, maybe touching upon 9. So from early days of Twitter until now. Subscribe to this video. What? I'm an expert in social media. I hope you can subscribe to this video. I hope you can subscribe to my channel, the content zone. And I'd love to hear your stories. I'd love to share different experiences, because the world of social media is very important. And I think it's time that we hear voices speaking about their opinions, about what they think is good, what they think is bad. Increasing education in the space, more so than just how do I increase likes, how do I increase followers.